Hey, Pool Chasers. Thank you for joining us today on episode 58 of the Pool Chasers podcast. Our mission is to help educate and inspire in the form of a podcast. Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers podcast.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Paul.
Hey, it's great to be here. I really appreciate the fact that you folks invited us.
Yeah. So can you tell us about yourself? We'd love to hear your story.
Sure. Well, we've been around for a while now, longer than many people think. But I'm president of Solar Pool Technologies. We developed and introduced the world's first solar-powered robot for cleaning your swimming pool. It's basically an automated skimmer that removes all the debris from the surface of the pool before it sinks. And I got involved with the business when I was kind of between jobs, I guess. I'd sold a business in the late 2000s, and I was doing some consulting work for small, mid-sized businesses, working on revenue generation, profitability improvement, those kinds of things. And I ran into the two guys that had invented this product, the Solar Breeze, Dennis Ruja and Terry Moskey. And they had been developing the product. They were kind of at, or maybe just past a prototype phase. They had a product that they were selling into the marketplace. We called it the 1.0 version of the product. But, they had run into some challenges with their supply chain, with problems with the unit not working as well, reliability issues, some of those kinds of things. So I started out kind of on a consulting basis, and then we looked at it and I said, really, if we're going to make this thing work, we probably need to kind of start over. So we agreed to set up a new company, Solar Pool Technologies. I put some money in the business and we structured things. And the first thing we did was we went to an engineering firm and did a re-engineering of the product. And we launched that in 2011. So that was really the first version of the product. But on a personal basis, I hadn't come from the pool industry. And probably that was a good thing because, when we first got started, everyone in the pool industry said, well, this is a dumb idea. It's never going to work. And if I'd come from the pool industry, I might have had the same attitude. But I wasn't smart enough to know that when I first got involved. And I actually came out of the fire truck business. Strangely enough, we had a fire truck dealership here in Phoenix, so we sold and repaired fire trucks.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd worked for the
like a cool job.
Yeah, fire truck. So most of my career was involved in fire trucks, farm equipment, construction equipment, and then really, really early. This is going to date me. Back in the mid '80s, after I graduated from school, I was actually involved in a software startup. So that was a bunch of farm boys from Saskatchewan, which is where I was from, started this software company. And
Where are you from?
From Saskatchewan, from Western Canada.
Okay.
North of North Dakota.
How was it growing up out there?
Well, in the winter it was cold. In the summer it was hot. It's prairies. Saskatchewan is a lot like Kansas, only colder in the wintertime. Quite a lot colder in the wintertime. But it was great. I was raised on a farm. We had about 3,000 acres.
3,000 acres?
Well, back in that time, Western Canada, that was kind of the largest farm at the time. But by today's standards, it's really, pretty small. Some of these farmers now are farming like 20, 30,000 acres. It's gotten crazy. But
that's crazy to think that you could have so many different campsites on 3,000 acres. Like, well, let's go to that one. Remember that one? Yeah, it's way out there.
Well, I used to be able to get up in the morning if I wanted to, saddle a horse, and I could ride east from our farm, not west, but our farm was kind of up against some hills, and so you could ride east up into the hills for about half a day before you'd hit the next farmhouse. So,
oh, wow. Did you work on the farm?
Yeah. So that was my first career, was as a farmer. When I graduated from university, my wife and I went to university in Ottawa in Ontario. My wife and I moved back to Saskatchewan, and we were going to be farmers, except we had a couple of years of drought and grasshoppers and pretty bad stuff. So she pursued her accounting career, and I got involved with this software company, and then, careers kind of moved on from there, and eventually when my father passed, we ended up selling the farm. Yeah, so I was a farmer for 30 some odd years. If you start from year zero, when I was raised on the farm, but
Yeah. That's really cool. So then you moved from there because of the software company or because of something else to the
well,
to the
we
States?
moved into Regina, into a big city, and we lived there for, I guess, close to a decade. Started a family. Karen was working on her accounting career, and I started out with the software company, and then eventually transitioned into working as the senior policy analyst with the Western Canadian Wheat Growers Association, which was a farm lobby group. From there into J.I. Case in the farm equipment business. So I worked in the farm equipment business for a few years, and then they transitioned me into the construction equipment business. Then at one point, the fellow that had recruited me to go to work for Case in the farm equipment business gave me a phone call. He had left the company a few years earlier, and he said, "Paul, I just became general manager of this fire truck business in Red Deer, Alberta, and I think I need a vice president of sales, and would you be interested?" So at the time, we were facing a potential move with in my job with Case, and we weren't sure we were excited about it. So we packed up from Regina, Saskatchewan, moved to Red Deer, Alberta, and started out in the fire truck business. And then a few years later, we had some success with the company in Red Deer. It was a subsidiary of a company in Florida, Emergency One. So I was offered a job, vice president, North American sales for E1 down in Florida. So that's how I ended up in the fire truck business. It kind of goes with being in corporate America a little bit. You have to be careful what you ask for sometimes. So the CEO that recruited me to move to Florida, he got fired about 6 months after I'd moved. So I just moved the family, 4,000 miles across North America from Red Deer, Alberta to Ocala, Florida. Then it took the company about 6 months to hire a new CEO, and it took him and I about 6 months to figure out that we probably weren't going to have a long-term relationship together. We had kind of different views of the world. That's how I ended up in Phoenix. Another fellow and myself who also didn't get along well with the new CEO who was on the management team, we bought a fire truck dealership here in Phoenix from the guy that was that represented our product in the area, and we moved out here, and that's how I ended up in Phoenix. That was in 2003.
Wow, that's crazy. And a fire truck
Big journey.
dealership.
Yeah.
What is it? I'm curious. What does a fire truck go for?
Kind of like a heavy truck dealership. You sell trucks, you repair them, you sell the equipment that goes on them, but just on a smaller scale.
What does a brand new one go for?
Well, gosh, and I left that business in the late 2000s, so I'm sure things have changed since then. But at that time, I think the most expensive truck we sold was a big Bronto Skylift for about $1.4 million, and then the average just regular engines, pumpers at that time were going for $350, $400. I'm sure they're much more expensive than that.
Man,
now.
all these rappers and the Maseratis and Ferraris, try rolling up in a fire truck. That's what I'm talking about.
It was pretty cool, actually. We used to deliver trucks to customers once in a while, and one time, I think it was when my daughter was in high school, we offered as a silent auction for one of the fundraisers a trip to the prom in a fire truck. And
man,
so the night of the prom, I pulled up to wherever there was 2 or 3 couples that were part of it, so they loaded up in the truck, and I drove them to the prom. And
dude, it doesn't get any cooler than that.
Yeah, that's
So
way
it was
cooler than
pretty
that
fun.
limo for sure.
Oh wait, I see a fire. Woo, put it out.
So it was a fun business, but I was ready to leave when we sold that, or we sold our portion of that business. And so, like I say, it was just by chance really that I ran into Dennis and Terry, and I ended up in the pool industry. So just one of those things that comes along, an opportunity, and we decided to take it.
Right. So how did that transition happen exactly from having the fire truck dealership and just kind of meeting those guys?
Well, so I'd sold my share in the business, and I was, as I said, kind of between jobs. I was doing some consulting work for for small, mid-sized businesses, and ran into Dennis and Terry. And so we just decided to kind of relaunch the business. As I said, I put some money in, a small amount initially, which turned into a little bit more, which turned into a little bit more.
That's how it goes, right?
As the years went by. And we just developed the new version, which we introduced in 2011. Our customers ended up being kind of our beta testers, and we found that there were a few things that we needed to fix. So we fixed those. We launched the 2.0 version in about 2013. And, we've kind of been growing the business ever since. It's interesting. One of the challenges we have that I didn't really expect or probably didn't account for, and, I should have when we first started the business, was how difficult it is to finance the supply chain for a company like ours. And a lot of that has to do with how seasonal the business is and how long supply chain is to get a product like this built. And so, to really take advantage of the market opportunity when it shows up in the spring, you got to have your inventory in place, right? In order to have your inventory in place, you got to pay all your suppliers and everything like that. And so you've already invested that money ahead of time, and then when the season comes around, hopefully that's your harvest time, right? Like a farmer.
Right. So you know all about that.
So that's when you get a chance to reap the benefits. But it's been one of our biggest challenges has been finding a source of capital to be able to make those supply chain investments to make sure we have enough inventory in place when the season rolls around. So, and that almost killed us in 2014.
Okay.
That's probably a common problem in our industry. It's so seasonal in a lot of places. Here, California, Florida, and Texas, we're pretty year-round, but anywhere else, it's kind of very seasonal. So I'm sure that's a tough thing for anybody in our industry creating a product.
Yeah, in 2014, we'd grown the business to, it wasn't huge. We'd grown it to almost $1 million a year in sales. And the organization we were using to help fund our supply chain, to help build our inventory with us, decided that they didn't want to be involved in this business anymore. And so we lost that source of funding. And we couldn't find another source to build product for 2015. So we went from, almost $1 million in sales in 2014 to almost zero in 2015. And we shut up our facility. Dennis and I were fixing units in our garage. It was a pretty rough time. And we thought, we were visiting bankruptcy attorneys and doing all that sort of thing. And so it was pretty scary. But we kept getting this positive feedback from our customers that said, this is such a great product. We love the way it keeps our pool clean. It's always sparkly clean. I can't believe you guys can't, figure out a way to solve this problem. So it was in July 31st of 2015, we launched the Kickstarter program for the NX version of the product. We knew there was some redesign work that we wanted to do, and so we launched that on July 31st. By the end of August, we had pre-sold about 800 units and raised almost $400,000 through that Kickstarter program. Wow. And so that gave us the capital we needed to build product going into the 2016 season, and we sold a little over 2,000 units in 2016, and we've been able to, find ways of solving that capital problem for 2017 and 2018, partly because our supply chain has started to give us some terms and credit that makes it easier, but it's still a big problem, especially when you're growing at 25 or 30% a year. That capital cycle becomes real challenging because, we have to invest all that money in October, November, December to have product available for March, April, May, and closing that capital gap is just every year it's a challenge for us.
Right. Speaking of Kickstarter, didn't you say, Greg, that's kind of how we first heard of Solar Breeze?
Yeah, that is where we first heard of Solar Breeze. So we had this customer in South Scottsdale, and there's just the gnarliest Palo Verde tree that sat above this pool. It wouldn't cut it, wouldn't do anything, and this was a time where we We had to take every pool, keep every pool at this point in time. We go back there and there's this box and it's the Solar Breeze. And, just by looking at the box, like, no, it has something to do with the pool. And he comes out and we're like, hey, like, what is this? And he's like, dude, it's a Solar Breeze. Like, I saw these guys on Kickstarter and kind of told us the story about what it did and everything going on. And we're just like, what the heck? And he's like, so hopefully this will help. Sure enough, it did help, and did a little bit more research. I'm like, dude, these guys are in Tempe.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we started our relationship, and just kind of, we wanted to make sure that we watched the product in the pool, make sure that it was actually not, one of the million kind of products out there that, they don't beta test. They don't do too much of that, but figure if it can last in Arizona for even 6 months, might be worth it. But since we found you guys, we started popping them in different pools and recommending them to, different customers, and it's been a good relationship. But yeah, that is definitely how we ran into you guys.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter was a great thing for us, not just because it helped us raise the money to go forward, but because of the sort of visibility it gave to the company as well. Yeah. And so that helped us out quite a bit. But still, we still run into headwinds as we try to grow the business, partly because it's kind of a different way of thinking about how you clean your swimming pool a little bit. Most people, the debris comes in the pool, you're running your pool pump. If you got a variable speed pump, the skimmers aren't really doing very much while it's running on low speed for the most part. And so that debris, it collects in your pool, eventually sinks to the bottom. So most people think about, how am I going to get that debris off the bottom of the pool, right? Because that's where most people see it. It's waterlogged and sunk to the bottom. So we kind of take a different approach or theory that says all that debris you're cleaning off the surface or bottom of your pool floats on the surface for 3 or 4 hours before it sinks. So why not get it off the surface before it sinks? Takes less energy to do it. By the time it gets to the bottom of your pool, it's already decayed and started to create bacteria growth in your pool and that sort of thing. So it just seemed to us to make a lot of sense to get it off the surface. And so the concept behind the Solar Breeze is, here's this robot. It's like a Roomba for your pool. Goes around your pool all day while the sun is shining. While the sun's shining, it charges a battery that's on board on the unit. So when the sun goes down, it runs off battery power pretty much all night. So this time of year in Arizona, these units will run, pretty close to 24 hours a day in your pool. And it's just surprising, if you get all that debris off the surface of your pool, how much easier it is to keep your pool clean.
Right. And we'll talk a lot more about that. Kind of curious, how were you guys testing these units? I know you're beta testing and all this different stuff, but how were you really testing this? I mean, were you giving them to pool guys? Were you guys keeping them in your personal pools? Because it's rough having anything out in this Arizona heat, especially during monsoon season, which we're in the middle of right now. And I think if it can, withstand Arizona's heat and all the different challenges we have here, probably make it just about anywhere.
Yeah. Testing is always a big challenge. And especially for a company like ours, it's not like we're a Zodiac or a Pentair or everything that, we have a lot of retained earnings that we can use to invest in testing and that sort of thing. But one thing we've discovered is that you can't test too much. We discovered that with some of the early versions, like the 2.0 that we released, that we probably hadn't tested as well as we should. So with each subsequently release of the product, we've always looked to get customers that are willing to put units in their pool for a few months before we actually release the product. As you said, our own pools, get some of our pool service professionals involved in helping us work with that. And of course, as we get bigger and we get more relationships in both the business and with our customer base, each subsequent round of testing with the new product becomes a little bit easier as well. So we think we're doing a better job. We did a really poor job of that early in our evolution of the business, and we think we're doing a little bit better job of it with each subsequent product release.
Oh, I'm sure. The feedback really helps when you get a certain type of, feedback on the product, that, makes you go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, it needs to do this now or whatever.
The other thing we found too is that customers don't necessarily mind if they have a problem with the unit. I mean, they don't love it, right? But as long as you look after them. We always try to focus on the fact if a customer has a problem with their unit, let's figure out a way to get it fixed. Let's figure out a way to do it in a way that doesn't either cost them a lot of money or a lot of time to do it, and just get the unit back in their pool somehow. We don't always succeed at that. Sometimes we fumble the ball, but our focus has always been, if customers have problems, let's look after them. Usually you'll find that as long as you look after your customers when they have a problem and you get the unit fixed, you get it back in their pool, and especially the fact that they love what the pool product does for their pool so much, that they're still pretty happy.
Right. Yeah. I know the pools that we had them in, there was probably only 2 that needed to be taken back, and the warranty covered everything, which was really cool. They didn't have an issue at all. Yeah. They just wanted it fixed. They're like, no, we need to hurry up and get this fixed because this thing is this thing is doing
it's a huge
work.
Difference, yeah.
And one of the pools was in, pretty exclusive community here in Silverleaf, and beautiful pool, all the state-of-the-art equipment, all that stuff. And they had all the different Palo Verde trees back there. And this pool was beautiful, but it was kind of a nightmare to skim. Yeah. Even with I think it had 2 skimmers and all the different things, but those were both full and everything like that. But putting the Solar Breeze in, that thing was a champ. And that was really cool because that had a cleaner, and you would think that the Solar Breeze getting caught up on the hoses would be an issue because that was the thing we heard the most. But it's solar powered and it's running almost 24 hours a day. It's going to free itself from those hoses eventually. And I think that was the biggest question we got, because we did little videos and pictures and put them on our Instagram when we had Brothers Pool Service. And it was like, well, what about this? And it's like, dude, it frees itself eventually. Yeah. It's not like it's running for 3, 4, 5 hours and then it's just going to shut down until the next day. Like, this thing is just constantly going. Eventually it's going to free itself. So that was really cool.
On that issue, we've actually come up with an attachment now that if a customer has a problem with the unit getting stuck on like a suction hose for a bottom cleaner, that is kind of a loop that goes on the front of the unit, just hangs down below the unit a little bit, and it keeps the unit from getting caught up on that hose. So if we have any folks listening that are having that problem with the Solar Breeze, give us a call and we can help get that fixed up.
Oh wow, that's cool. Awesome. I didn't know that. That's a great idea.
We want to take a second to get to know our sponsors, MPT, a little bit better. We're very excited to talk to MPT product manager Summer Nguyen. One thing we've noticed, Summer, is that there are many different pool tiles out there. So what sets MPT apart from its competitors?
MPT is a brand that has a lot of value. We stand behind our product, and it's designed, developed, and tested for pool submerged applications. Our tiles are frost-proof, chemical resistant, acid resistant. NPT has the largest footprint, so you definitely need to go to one of our design centers and touch and feel and even take samples. So it's ease of use and just accessibility is what makes us definitely stand out from the rest.
Thank you, Summer. If you want to find out more, click the link below in the write-up or go to mptpool.com. And don't forget to follow MPT Pool Products on Instagram and Facebook for the latest photos and product information.
So what kind of feedback have you gotten from pool professionals on it?
It's kind of interesting. At the very early stage, we didn't get much excitement out of pool professionals for the product. And once again, I think it was because a lot of people, it's a different way of kind of thinking about how you clean your pool. And I think there was also some concern from pool professionals about, gosh, if customer has one of these in their pools, maybe they won't need me anymore, right?
Right.
And but that's really evolved over the last, especially 2 or 3 years, and since the Kickstarter launch, where we're getting more and more pool professionals interested in the product, actually selling the product to the customer. And I think they're finding, hey, the robot doesn't take over the relationship I have with the customer. The customer still trusts me, trusts my judgment, wants me to keep the chemicals balanced. The robot's not going to do those kinds of things. But what the robot does do is it keeps the pool pretty clean, even on the days I'm not there. And so maybe I don't get quite as many complaints from customers about that thing or callbacks because I cleaned the guy's pool in the morning and a monsoon rolled in, and he called me in the afternoon and wondered if I actually showed up. So I don't get quite as many of those kinds of calls. And the other thing that I think we get feedback from pool professionals that are, have customers with the Solar Breeze is that often they feel it takes them a little less time when they go out on a pool service to actually complete that service if the customer's had a Solar Breeze in their pool, because the surface is nice and clean to start with, so they need to check the chemicals, balance those, do some other things, but often it can shorten the cycle time that they have for their weekly service on that pool.
Right. And the funny thing is, when we first saw the unit and saw it working and it was working well, we didn't think we were in competition with it at all. We were actually really excited because we weren't just thinking about, for myself and Ty, we were actually thinking about our team. It's harder than ever to, retain staff and keep people around. We're like, man, our job as owners is to provide, a good work environment for our employees, and also making sure that our customers have the cleanest pools possible, and we're letting them know about the newest technologies out there. Because at the end of the day, what does the homeowner want? They want you to keep their pool clean, and they want you to look over the equipment and all those other things. If you could focus more time in looking at the equipment, and depending on what's going on, you're lubing O-rings, replacing O-rings, all the other things, there's a million things to do back there. But if there's something in place to actually help skim the top, because I think for most pools, skimming could be the most time-consuming part. And if you have to brush, test chems, there's a million other things that we have to do, but it's one less thing that we have to do. And it's actually, visually appealing. Customers like, yeah, they're doing their part. They actually recommended this unit. Like, don't let them go find this stuff on their own. You're the guy. And, if you are bringing the Solar Breeze in, like, we had it down, like, our rates didn't change at all. It was just, there's so many things going on, and we want to make sure that when our team is here, that they're doing everything. They're really taking the time to pay close attention to the water chemistry, and they're adding the right chemicals. They're logging everything properly, because everything we need all the metrics. We need the data of, what all the levels are at, so that it can go through the software. So there's so many other things going on. And if there's one less physical thing that they have to do, it's just going to make the experience that much better. And I think a lot of people should really take that into consideration, that, you might have 100 pools and half of them are just, they're just really difficult because a lot of stuff is getting in there. And people are like, well, you got to have everything set right in your pool so that it's working correctly. Yeah, well, that's not the case. I have an 8,000 gallon pool. The gardener for the city behind my wall pushes everything into my pool.
Yep.
Like, if it wasn't for that, it would be okay.
Or my neighbor has a mesquite tree that hangs over the fence.
Yeah,
right over top of my pool.
Exactly.
Right?
There's so many other factors, and there's only so much like a skimmer and a pool can really do. And we know, because we've really tested this way before Pool Chasers, and had it in my pool and many other pools. And it was just a really cool deal. And it's a really cool way to impress future clients. Or I know there was a pool, we had a green pool, and we did all new equipment and everything like that. And it was just, they were doing all kinds of construction, landscaping, and this and that. But while we were doing this, we put one in the pool, and it was just kind of cleaning up. And they're like, what the hell is that? And like, oh, we just put this in here to clean it up. While you got people back here doing stuff and we're installing equipment. They just thought it was the most thoughtful, coolest thing ever. They just like, oh, I didn't know that there's pool companies out here doing it like that. I'm like, there's not. We're the only one, actually.
It's interesting. We have a few pool professionals now that have acquired a demo unit, right? And so they'll go out, a customer that maybe has a particular debris problem or something in their pool, and they'll say, hey, I'm going to put this in and leave it with you for a week, and I'm just going to come back, and let me know what you think of it, or I'll call you up, let me know what you think. So they leave it in the pool for a week, and almost inevitably either the customer asks them how much it is to buy, and keep it there. They say, how do I get one of these? I want one in my pool all the time. So they'll take the demo unit and call us up and place an order, and we'll drop ship it to the customer, and away they go, and they make some money on it. And their customer's happy, and it's a less hassle for them to clean that pool the next time they go around.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're doing filter cleans, repairs, things that are going to take well over an hour. And you just drop that in there. I mean, just the customer seeing you do that, even if they didn't buy one, you could get, whatever future repairs, installs, service. But that's a huge plus if they're like, I want one of those. That is super cool. I think that does many things. You're a lot more likely to get feedback on, say Google or Yelp, different things like that. You could get, we'll talk about the different plans you have set up so people can actually sell these units. But there's a lot, it does, a lot of really cool things.
I think we listen to the customers too quite a bit more than I think some people do. And, they would complain about, it looks great for, the hour or, the day or two after you leave. But the rest of the time I have to go out and clean the pool myself for us to even swim. Yeah. So when we would hear that, that's almost immediately what we would tell them is well, we have this product that you can put in the pool that would actually clean that surface for you, during it, so you can actually go swimming when you want to swim and not have to clean the pool every time. And that was kind of one of the main things we always listened for was them complaining about that, because there's not much you can do if you have a mesquite tree hanging over, when we're not there. So that helps tremendously. And there's also customers we want to keep working with that were really good customers, but we always made a promise to our team, we wouldn't clean pools that we wouldn't want to clean. And that's kind of how we kept some of those relationships, was by putting that in the pool where, we could still keep the good customer and keep our guys happy. And it kind of was a good balance of both. So.
Right. Yeah, most definitely. Listening to your customers is key.
And we get feedback from pool owners that, in fact, one of the marketing phrases we used came directly from a pool owner. And she said, my pool's always swim ready. And we use that term in some of our marketing materials. But concept is I get home from work, I'm feeling tired and grumpy and I want to jump in the pool and cool off. I walk out there and dirty and there's bugs in it and all that sort of stuff. And so now I got to spend 15 or 20 minutes skimming the pool before I jump in. And so maybe I don't bother, right? And so the concept is you got a solar breeze in your pool, you get home from work, that thing's been running all day, pool's nice and sparkly clean. Take the unit out of the pool, shut it off, jump in the pool, where you go. Swim ready, party ready. That's another term that one of our customers use. Hey, I don't have to worry about calling my pool guy to come in and clean the pool because I got a party that night, So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Pool guy appreciates it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want that extra call because he's already got his route planned for that day.
Yeah. So what kind of technology is involved in creating a product that's solar powered? I mean, maybe you could just break down the unit for us, what it is exactly, and, what kind of technology is involved?
Sure. Well, so the basis for the unit are, of course, the motors that drive the unit through the water. So there's two motors in the unit. One drives the rear paddle wheel and one drives the front paddle wheel. The rear paddle wheel propels the unit through the water, and the front paddle wheel scoops up all of the debris and brings it into the containment chamber that's inside the unit. So, of course, if you're going to have power for those motors, we use brushless DC motors. They're each about 1 watt. If you're going to have power for those motors, that power has to come from somewhere. So we use a battery, lithium-ion battery that plugs into the printed circuit board, has software on it that controls the operation of the motors, reverse navigation, and all of those kinds of things, right? So the battery is providing the power to the unit to run the motors and drive the diagnostics in the printed circuit board and all those kinds of things. Of course, batteries don't last forever, right? You can put a full battery in a unit and it'll run, and then when the battery goes down, you somehow need to recharge it. You could say, well, plug it into the wall and recharge it, then put it back in your pool. But that seems to be a lot of work, right?
It's such a pain.
Yeah, plug it in the wall, charge it, and then I put it. So then you have to say, well, how am I going to charge the battery, right? Well, pools are in the sun, right? Almost all the time for the most part. Sometimes they get a little bit of shade here and there, but for the most part, pools are designed to be in the sun. So the sun is always there on the pool. Why not use solar power? 2 solar powers installed on top of the unit, wired through the printed circuit board into the battery. And actually, the way we have the technology set up is when it's in the sun, the unit is actually running directly off of solar power. It's not running off of the battery at that time. So the power from the solar panels are running the motors. And then because they're 12-watt panels and the motors are only 1 watt each, takes about 2 watts to run the unit. That surplus power gets put into the battery. So some of the power goes to the motors to run those. The surplus power gets pushed into the battery. Then when there's actually a little bidirectional switch on the printed circuit board, so that when the unit goes into shade, it switches back and then it runs off of battery power. When it goes into the sun, it switches back off of solar. What happens is through the course of the day, it's running, this time of year, 8, 9, 10 hours a day in the sun. It creates enough power to basically fully charge that battery. It's a 5,300 milliamp battery. So that battery gets pretty much fully charged by the end of the day. So when the sun goes down, it just runs off of battery power. Typically, off a fully charged battery, the unit's going to run anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. It kind of depends on the shape of the pool and how often it reverses and does those kinds of things. For the most part, this time of year, it's going to run pretty much round the clock. As you get into winter, sun's lower in the sky, you're not getting quite as much energy. The units will shut down. It'll run a few hours after sundown, and then the units will shut down. But a lot of customers ask us, well, do I have to go out and start it every morning? And you don't. If the battery gets down to a certain level during the night, it just shuts itself off, sits there. There's some cool lights that flash, and then when the sun comes up in the morning, the solar panels sense that it's sunny again, and it says, "Oh, sunny again. Time to go back to work," and away it goes.
Right. Yeah, no pool start. You don't have to go out there and start that thing up. So I'm curious, because I know it works, but is there like a special technology, and you don't have to, get too crazy into it, but how is it like, how does it know to like cover the entire pool? Like, how does it not just go in the same direction? Because when you watch it, it doesn't have the same pattern. It like will hit the wall, the wheels will turn, and it'll go in a different direction. And it'll hit another wall, and it'll go another direction. Like it's pretty smart. Like it's easier for the Roomba. That's the vacuum in the house. That's much easier because it's kind of like going straight, but you have maybe a breeze or the wind, or there's, it's in the water. It's just much different. How does it know to?
So it doesn't really map the pool. It's not that smart. And it really relies on just the randomness of the operation with those front bumper wheels. So sometimes it'll turn it in one direction. Sometimes it'll turn it in another direction. The one intelligent part it does have is that when it comes up to an obstruction and those bumper wheels aren't turning or aren't engaged with the side of the pool to turn the unit, it'll sit there for, typically 20, 30 seconds, and it figures out that it's stuck, and then it goes into reverse, and it reverses. It'll turn usually when it reverses and then head off in a different direction. Now, we've got it programmed so that it reverses when it's stuck on an obstacle, but it also reverses on a timed basis. Every 3 or 4 minutes, it goes into reverse. And what that does is it helps kind of increase improve the coverage of the pool. So what we normally say is, look, you got your pool's kind of dirty, put the unit in the pool. Don't necessarily watch it because it'll go past the odd leaf, or you say, well, why didn't it pick up that leaf? If you just go away for an hour and a half, come back, your pool will be clean. So it typically covers an average backyard pool in an hour and a half, something like that. And so if you think it's running in the summer 24 hours a day, it's going to cover the surface of your pool, 20 times a day. And so it's just going to keep it really nice and clean.
Should teach that thing to talk. And
well,
make a good friend. Like, hey, how you doing today, buddy? Oh man,
I tell you what, one of
you
the
work
things,
so hard.
One of the things we are looking at is for some future versions is can we turn the robot into something that can also help to maybe monitor pool chemistry? There's technology out there now that use sort of submersible technology to monitor pH and chlorine and those kinds of things. So, one of the things we're looking at is there a way to potentially integrate some of that kind of technology into a future version of the robot? The problem is every time you add stuff like that, you also add power consumption requirements. And so, one of the trade-offs you have when you start to add features like that is, do I now start to use so much power that I reduce the operating time of the unit? So those are some things we're working on. But we see that in the future there's probably an IoT version of this, Internet of Things version of this in the works.
Yeah, and I think just being completely honest, in a perfect world, that would be a good idea. But I definitely think being a pool professional, I feel like we would probably have an issue with that, because it's like you're doing the skimming and then now it's like the water chemistry. For some reason, homeowners might want to take the side of, this over, maybe a very in-depth test that we've done. And that is a huge part of what we do is, making sure that we're testing this water the best it can be, and we're adding all the right chemicals and all that good stuff.
And keeping in mind, pool chemistry isn't just about pH and chlorine, right?
Right.
There are a lot of other things, as you know, as pool professionals, that determine whether or not a customer's water is healthy. So yeah, we're thinking about that as well when we look at those kinds of
Hey,
kinds
what
of
would be
things.
awesome is monitoring the water level.
Yeah.
Like sending notifications of the water level.
Or water temperature.
Oh,
The other thing that we've looked at is just the debris tray itself. Can we monitor whether the debris tray is full and send a notification about the fact that it needs to be cleaned out or something?
That would be cool.
Like that. Yeah. So,
Or like a margarita maker too.
yeah.
Man, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, we've had a lot of surprising number of customers say, "Does this thing come with a drink holder?"
It's like, okay, come on. Yeah, it does actually. If you don't put tabs here, you can.
So I want to take a minute to introduce our newest sponsor and supporter, Ledge Lounger.
Oh yeah, really excited and thankful to have y'all on board with us.
Yeah, we actually recorded an episode with Christopher Anderson, the CEO and founder of Ledge Lounger. It is actually episode 29, so if you have not heard it and to understand more of the story, go check it out.
Definitely one of our favorites. So I think the easiest way to describe their product is they make a high quality outdoor furniture that looks amazing, especially by the pool. Their signature product is the Chase, and I can't think of a more iconic piece in our industry than that.
Definitely.
The Chase sits in the water on Baja or Sunshelf. You might notice people tanning on these on Instagram, and their feed is just blowing up with thousands of likes and comments.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen those.
So probably rings a bell now.
Yeah, so we just actually recently went to Brookshire, Texas to meet up with the Ledge Lounger team. And we took a tour of the facility and really got to understand the company and culture so much more. Everyone was so full of energy and excited to be part of the team, and they all did their jobs flawlessly.
And they just came out with a line of games. And these games are made out of the same high quality materials as our outdoor furniture. And, they're designed to go poolside just like the furniture is, which is really cool. And while we were there, we were able to test drive one of their new games, the ping pong table. And let me tell you,
Yes, please tell us.
I don't know if you saw on our Instagram IGTV, but I was passing out whoopings on their ping pong table.
Oh my.
I mean, Tyler and JC, they just, if you see the IGTV, you'll know they just didn't stand a chance. I mean, I really felt like Forrest Gump in his prime.
Oh my.
Just kidding. Y'all tried. I mean, you do get an A for effort.
Oh, thanks. So anyway, if you want to find out more about Ledge Lounger, go to ledgelounger.com.
So let's talk about the product itself. It's in the pool. There's the tray. Everything is getting picked up by the cleaner, and it has a tray. You want to talk about that?
Sure.
And the tab tray as well.
So we've talked about, the power management system and how that works. So what does it do when it's in the pool and when it's running? So it floats on the surface. It's a boat, goes around your pool. So essentially everything that's floating on the surface of your pool over the course of an hour and a half, all of that pool surface water is going to come through the unit. And anything that's floating on that surface is going to get captured inside the unit. There's a screen, it's about 70 threads per inch, stainless steel screen in the bottom of the debris tray. It filters down to about 100 microns. So pretty much anything you see with the eye on the pool surface will be filtered out by the screen inside the unit. All of that surface debris gets picked up, captured inside the unit. Even the pollens, dog hair, that sort of thing gets filtered out and held inside the unit. And how often you have to clean it out kind of depends on how much debris you get in your pool. Some customers clean it out, once a week on Saturdays as part of their routine, or if other customers get more debris in their pool, they might need to clean it out, a couple of times a week. The collection area in the unit is about twice the size of your normal skimmer basket. So if you think in that in terms of volume, that's about how much debris can get inside the unit. There's also a chlorine tray or a chlorine dispenser on the unit. It's a tray that slides out the side of the unit. You can put 2 3-inch chlorine tablets in it. If you're using that, not all customers do, but if customers decide to use that, then as the unit's going around the pool, not only is it collecting that debris, filtering, the smaller materials out through the screen, it's also distributing chlorine around your pool as well. We like to think that there's maybe some advantage in that because, a lot of people use the floaters where they put in the chlorine pucks in the floaters, and they typically kind of stay in one spot. And as the pool circulates, maybe it gets it. But, when that pool water isn't circulating, you're not, necessarily getting a lot of circulation through that chlorine floater.
Right.
So with the Solar Breeze, with the chlorine pucks inside the unit, as it's going back and forth across your pool, it's kind of distributing this chlorine evenly across the pool.
And it's moving the water.
And it's moving the water around a little bit as well. So we like to think that there's some advantage of that as well. We've also had, and this wasn't really the intent of the design, but we've also had some pool professionals comment that, look, the thing actually aerates your pool a little bit as it's going around because it's mixing, the paddle wheels are mixing up the water. It's doing that sort of thing. So it helps in that regards as well. You get all the debris removed from the surface. You get even small pollens, dust particles, dog hairs, that kind of thing filtered out through the screen, and it distributes the sanitizer as it's going around the pool. And it does that 24 hours a day.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So we talked about some of the benefits. Can you explain kind of what else it offers, when you're putting it into a pool?
Sure. So the biggest benefit is convenience. And, I think we've talked about that. But the concept of you never really have to hand skim your pool again. That pool surface is always sparkly clean. It's swim ready when you come home from work. It's party ready if you're getting set up to do something with the pool party that night. So that's kind of item number one, is really the convenience factor of it. A lot of folks also find that, if you're getting all that debris off the surface of the pool before it sinks, you're probably getting less decay and bacteria growth in your pool as well, because by the time it's gotten to the bottom, it's already waterlogged and created bacteria. So in many cases, you'll find that your chemical use may go down as well. You may not need to use as much chemicals or as often to keep the chemical balance in the pool and to keep it sanitized. So, and another concept is, and this is a controversial issue with many pool professionals, but a lot of our customers have found that they can reduce the amount of time they run their pool pump. Once again, the concept is if you're getting that debris off the surface, it's not decaying, it's not creating as much bacteria, you probably don't need to do quite as much filtration as well. So we've done some experimenting on our own with customers and found that, some of our customers have cut their pool pump use back as much as 50% and still been able to keep the chemical balance good in their pool and their pool nice and sparkly clean as well.
Yeah, I think as long as it runs enough to actually turn the water over and filter properly, a lot of times what people do is run it 10 to 12 hours a day because of the cleaning factor, right? Is to clean the pool, to make the vacuum run longer, to make the pop-up system run longer. But theoretically, when it's cleaning the surface, a lot of that's not going to drop down. So maybe you reduce that cleaning cycle quite a bit, which is what I think it's good for. Obviously, you still have to filtrate it enough to do its job correctly, to filter the water properly, to be safe. But yeah, I could see how it could reduce some of that cleaning time.
So if you do reduce your pool pump use, then of course you get the added advantage of you're reducing your electricity consumption as well, and reducing your carbon footprint because you're not running that pool pump quite as much. Most people, I'm sure pool professionals know this, but a lot of homeowners don't realize that the pool pump is the second biggest consumer of electricity in most Sunbelt homes, next to the air conditioner, The pool pump is the next biggest consumer of electricity. So it can add up to some big numbers. Even if you cut it back 2-3 hours a day, it can make a
huge
significant difference.
Yeah.
Then the other thing is, because you're getting all that debris in the solar breeze, and you have to clean it out once in a while, but you're not getting it in your filters. It's not running through the rest of your equipment, all those kinds of. So a lot of people find that, you can extend the life of your other pool equipment because it's not working as hard. And so there's an added advantage of that as well. So we think that, most people buy it for the convenience. Don't have to hand skim my pool. I come home from work. It's always swim ready, super sparkly clean. But there's really some other advantages that go along with it as well that are pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about feedback from customers earlier and some of the pool professionals. What kind of modifications have you guys made throughout the years to make the unit better?
You guys mentioned the getting stuck on the hose. So the attachment we came up with for getting stuck on the hose is one of the items that we've come up with. In terms of the unit itself, early versions of the unit used to get stuck on obstructions and sit there for quite a while before it would back up and reverse. And we've worked pretty hard to improve the sensitivity that the unit has to understanding when it's stuck on an obstruction and then reversing and turning. So that's been a key factor. An early version of the product used to have like a 3-piece debris tray. So we had a nylon loose filter that would fit in the bottom of the tray, and then there was a white plastic holder that kind of held it in place. And it was, to be quite honest with you, kind of a pain in the butt. With the NX version and the NX2, we went to a 1-piece debris tray where that stainless steel screen is now molded in directly into the bottom of the tray. The other thing we got a lot of feedback on the NX version about, and you guys shared this with us too, challenges pulling that debris tray in and out of the unit and getting it to fit properly. And if the customer didn't get it installed exactly right, it would end up in the bottom of their pool, and that would be kind of frustrating. So with the NX2, we redesigned the whole structure of that engagement between the debris tray and the unit so that it slides in more easily, it locks in place more clearly so the customer knows when it's locked in place, when it's ready to go. So we've each iteration we try to listen to our customers, understand what issues and problems they're having with the use of the unit, and then try to address those as we go forward. Another thing, most recently this year, we've had a few reliability issues around the gear mechanisms that drive those front bumper wheels. And so this year with the 2019 version of the product, we actually added some ball bearings in some of the in the gear platforms to try to improve reliability of the unit and the longevity of the unit.
Nice. Very cool. So we talked about all the benefits and the product itself. One thing that we always working on was how to sell it to the customer, right? Do you have any tips or tricks or ways of explaining it to a customer that can, for the pool guy or gal out there that can talk to their customer, explain why they should make that purchase?
I think for the pool service professional that's in the customer's backyard at the pool, the best way is to do it through demonstration. Get a hold of a unit, give us a call. We'll help work out an arrangement to get a demo unit, and just take that demo unit, put it in a customer's pool, let them use it for a week, or if they're around when you're cleaning the pool, let them see it. But it's one of those things that is kind of hard to explain in words. But if the customer sees it in their pool for a few hours or a few days, it really makes, all of a sudden they get it.
Right.
They just get it. So I really encourage pool professionals to say, look, figure out a way to get a unit, get a demo unit, put it in customers' pools, and you'll be surprised at what happens. We actually have a retailer who has come up with a program where he'll rent the unit to a customer for $75 for a month. And then at the end of the month, if the customer decides he wants to keep the unit, of course, he credits back the $75 towards the purchase price. So some of those kinds of things are there as well. But the best way to explain how the unit works to a customer is to put it in their pool.
Right. Yeah, totally agree. And I think, you have to be careful in how you describe it, because there was a couple times where would tell them about it and like, okay, I'll send you the information, da 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 da. They went ahead and just bought it already. Follow up and be like, were you still interested? It's like, oh, it's already in the pool, whatever. And it's like, what the heck?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's got to be really careful on how you get that information to them. I started saying it a little bit differently, whereas because we had a good relationship and you were just here in Tempe, I'd be like, yeah, we have these in our warehouse. I can go get it and bring it back here like tomorrow.
Right.
Send you an invoice. Would you like to move forward? And it's like, yeah, just being like much more clear than them going and watching the video and then just buying it, because that was just another source of income for us as well. It's doing two things. It's skimming the top of the pool. The team is having much better experience in that backyard, and we're making, some good money on the back end off it. So it's a win-win situation. It's one of those things, just like anything else, you got to figure out how to pitch it, how to sell it, how you're going to educate your team on emptying the tray and making sure that it's put back in correctly, and, all those different things.
Right. For pool professionals who don't live in Arizona and don't have us in their backyard like you guys did, we started to work out arrangements on drop shipping to customers so they could do the same thing. Hey, listen, I can call up these guys and they'll have a unit here for you tomorrow or the day after, or however long it takes for a UPS to get from our factory to wherever they are. And we're happy to do that too with pool professionals, so you don't have to stock the unit, and we just invoice you the dealer cost at the time the unit goes out the door.
Thank you. So one thing we really like about the Solar Breeze is the warranty, and I know the customer likes it as well. Can you explain, what the warranty is and if it costs extra, and just, what that entails?
Sure. So the standard warranty on the unit is 12 months. And we're pretty generous on that for the most part. We don't count down to the day. There's lots of times where a customer may just be out of warranty, and we'll honor that as well. Our warranty's FOB here, so customers usually responsible for getting it to our location. But we try to make that easy as well for customers who don't live locally. We'll send them a UPS label at our price, which is pretty cheap for the most part, and gets it here. Then once it arrives, hey, we fix it, we test it, and we ship it back to them. We cover the cost of shipping it back to the customer as well, and go from there. So, yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible if a customer has a problem with the unit to get it looked after and get it back in their pool. The other thing is, typically, if something happens like within the first few weeks, even the first couple of months of a unit, it doesn't happen that often, but, occasionally you'll get a component that'll fail, a battery will fail, or a motor will fail, or something like that. In that case, we normally just say, hey, look, we'll just ship you a replacement unit. And,
Oh, that's cool.
And go from there. So once again, the objective is, hey, pool seasons are short in a lot of the country, and so customers don't like having units that they need in their pool tied up in a repair shop for 3 or 4 weeks. So, let's just try to get the problem fixed and get a unit back in the customer's hands. And if we need to replace it, then we do that quite often as well.
Right. If a pool company wants to be proactive and the customer, says it's okay, this is what we normally did. Can we take the unit out and send it to you,
Sure.
and then you ship it back?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Especially for
absolutely.
what it does. Like,
Yeah, and
we're
we'll-
also in a hurry to get it back in the pool.
And if you ship it to us, we can ship it directly back to the customer, make it less hassle for the pool professional as well. So yeah, as I said, our focus is if a customer has a problem, let's get it fixed as fast as we can and get it back in their pool.
What
Right.
should be given to them, when the unit's installed? Is there like a serial number or something else they need to call in for a warranty?
Yeah, so it's helpful to us if warranties get registered. Now, we don't insist on, we're going to honor a warranty with the customer, even if they didn't register the warranty. If the warranty's not registered in our system, typically we'll simply ask them to send us a copy of the invoice or whatever they had at the time that shows the date of purchase, and that confirms the warranty, and we'll go ahead and get things dealt with. But it's helpful for us if warranties get registered. There's actually a card in the unit that comes with the unit, a warranty registration card that they can fill out and send in to us. It's self-addressed, so they can just drop it in and send it to us, and then we get those entered in our system. Or there's also a place on our website that they can go and register the warranty online as well. So we try to make it as easy as possible. As I said, it's easier for us if customers go ahead and register their warranty, but it's not a requirement. We're going to honor the warranty as long as they can show that they have a valid invoice and a proof of purchase. We're gonna look after them.
But we should be like encouraging them to register their product.
I would encourage them to register their product. We probably need to make it a little easier in our material for people to see that. But if what we do try to do work with dealers is make sure they have, they know the location on the website that they can send their customers to do it there. And that's probably the easiest way for customers to get warranties registered.
Very good. Thank you. So being in monsoon season here in, Scottsdale, Phoenix area, how well is the unit holding up?
I think pretty well. It was interesting. We had I had a couple of customers that bought units recently that, with this last windstorm that came through, that called me up and said, my pool wasn't perfectly clean, but it was sure a lot cleaner than it would have been without the unit. So yeah,
Right.
the units hold up great. And this is, monsoon season in Arizona is the time when they get put through their paces. One of the interesting things, just so people know, because sometimes with monsoons you can just get so much debris in the pool.
Get a tree in your pool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Won't take that out.
It won't take out the tree, but if the units do get so plugged up with debris that they just can't take anymore, it actually has a built-in safety mechanism, so it shuts itself off as well, and that's based on the front paddle wheel. Because what can happen is sometimes it just gets so much debris packed into that unit that front paddle wheel won't turn anymore. And won't pull debris into the unit. If that happens, then the unit just says, "Oh, can't work anymore," and it shuts itself down and waits for somebody to come along and empty it out and reset it. And that's just to kind of protect some of the internal workings of the system. For Arizona customers, monsoon season is one of the times that they get the most value out of the product. There's no question about that.
Awesome. Thank you. So is there anything new you guys are working on?
Actually, we're launching into a redesign of the product right now that's focused on a couple of things. We're really targeting probably for this release to be sometime late next year, late 2020. And we're not really looking to change the functionality of the unit significantly. The form will likely change a little bit, but we're really focused on some further reliability improvements, trying to extend the operating life of the unit, extend the mechanical system operation of the unit. And also, we're looking at trying to make it easier to manufacture and more cost effective as well. So that's really what the focus of this redesign is. So when you look at the unit, the newer one that'll come out, year and a half or so, it'll probably be a slightly different form, but the functionality will actually largely be the same. Then beyond that, we're looking at some of the things we talked about earlier, which are potentially tying in some communications functionality, monitoring whether the debris tray is full, monitoring potentially some of the functionality of the unit as well, water temperature and that sort of thing. So anyhow, yeah, those are kind of the main things we're working on. So looking at continuing to improve reliability, reducing the cost of the unit, and then looking at kind of some communications functionality around the unit are kind of the key things we're working on right now.
Very good. Look forward to seeing the new unit.
Yeah, so if someone's interested in purchasing the Solar Breeze, and how would they do that? What's the website? And then you guys do offer like a dealer price as well. So can you talk about that?
Sure. So if some of the pool industry professionals are interested in potentially sharing this product with their customer, I would encourage them to probably give us a call. Our phone number is 623-582-2825, or email us, and our best email address is customer service, which is all one word, customer service at solar, SOLAR -breeze.com, so solar-breeze.com. Call us or email us, we'll follow up with you. We'll get you set up as a dealer, work out an arrangement to get you a demo unit, do some things that'll help you do that. Customers can order direct from us. We always list our product at the retail price on our website, which is $628. So customers can go directly to our website, solar-breeze.com, and buy from there as well if customers want to order direct. We have worked out some arrangements where maybe people don't necessarily want to handle product and do that sort of thing, where we can set people up with a unique discount code that they can offer to their customers, which will give the customer a discount when they come to our website, and then we pay a commission on the back end for that discount code. So that's also another option. But I think most people will find that some of the arrangements we have now with drop shipping product and doing that sort of thing, that's really the best way of handling it with the customer, and we're happy to do that. We would love to have more pool industry professionals on board with the product. We think there's a benefit to them and to their organizations and their companies by having more customers using it, and of course we'd love to sell more product as well.
Right, we agree.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing all about the product with us and, all the benefits and everything. We always kind of like to ask the guests if there's any books or podcasts, that's helped you throughout your career. So do you have any suggestions?
So my favorite business book of all time, and once again, this is going to date me because it's been around for a while, was written by a fellow by the name of Jim Collins, and it's Good to Great. And it monitors, how companies make that transition from being good to being great, long-lasting companies. And I tell you what, I've probably read that book half a dozen times. And, it's interesting. It kind of predates the explosion of the internet. I mean, it was written when the internet was here, but it really kind of predates the explosion of e-commerce. But it's still surprising how the basic fundamental ideas that he outlined in that book kind of apply even in a new technology era. So that's always that's been one of my favorite books as well. And then I also loved the Steve Jobs biography that came out a few years back that really kind of talked about how I think the thing I learned from there was how people who are incredibly driven and passionate about what they want to do can always find ways to achieve it, right? And so that's been a philosophy that I've tried to pursue as well, because trust me, there are times through the course of this journey with Solar Pool Technologies where it would have been a lot easier to quit than go forward. And but we've always been passionate about the idea that, hey, we think we're doing something meaningful in terms of changing the way people think about cleaning their pools and getting more enjoyment out of them. And I think it's important to keep pursuing that path.
Right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming and joining us today, Paul.
Hey, it's been a great conversation. Love your guys' program, podcast, and I hope you guys continue to be tremendously successful with it, because I think it's great for the industry.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to find out more about our guests or the sponsors of the show, you can check them out on the links we have provided in the write-up below. We have also provided links to our social media platforms, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. If the podcast has brought you any value, please do what you can to support us through our Patreon page by going to patreon.com/poolchasers. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to be updated each time a new episode is released. One last thing. If you're not yet in our Facebook group, join it today to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are all trying to better the industry. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.